You're listening to the Gettin' Salty Experience podcast.
You're muted, you knucklehead. I told you that before we started.
Oh, yeah. We are back. And you know what? When you said that, I was like, yeah, I know. Yeah, like I know. Right? Yeah.
Gonzo's muted, too.
Yeah. We are back. I feel like we got so much to talk about because we've been away for over a week, bro. Good stuff. Some good stuff.
Yeah, it was
about
a
here.
great week.
Me and Ruffy and Cliffy on the road, bro, doing it out in Indy.
I saw
so
you
many
guys
people. Well, anyway, welcome back to the Gettin' Salty Experience podcast. It's the only one in the whole wide world that brings the Firehouse kitchen table to you. We saw a lot of imposters out there, bro, roaming around all over the place. You know, oh, we bring the kitchen table. No, I bring the kitchen table. Oh, I bring the kitchen table.
Well, here's a kitchen table for you.
Kitchen table. It's like,
What?
Kitchen tables all over the place. There's only one that does, and it's this one. And we're back. And my man Ruffy is, look at him. He's all ready to go tonight, bro. Are you excited?
Well, give me a little bit. Give me a little something. Give me something.
Let me get you. Yeah. We had Sammy Peters come down from Chicago and hang out with us in the booth. A lot of fans came down.
I saw that.
A lot of fans came down, bro. There's some people that you don't put the face to the name in the chat. Like what was that guy's name? Dakota Grima. I'm like, wow, I fucked up your name on the show, and I'm gonna mess it up now too. So good stuff.
Coobs was signing hats like nobody's business. You would have thought he was like Henrik Lundqvist or something over there.
Yep. Yeah, Ruffy don't like to sign him. The guy comes over to Ruffy. Hey, Ruff, could you sign my hat? Yes, Coobs. He'll do it. All right.
I can definitely see this guy right here. I can see that.
Go to that guy. It was Saturday or Friday. It was pure pandemonium. There was so many people in the booth. It was crazy.
It's good stuff, man. Meeting a lot of people. It is.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Also tonight, which Gonzo reminded me, is the 12-year anniversary of this. What's up? And this. Yeah. So 12 years ago, not only that, we also burnt down O'Neill's. So same night, same crazy night. So rotten hell, Osama bin Laden. I hope you're down there, with your supposed 82.
Chasing fire.
Yeah, chasing fire. Yeah. Yep. And that's it, bro.
We got a heavy duty guy tonight. Another Detroit guy.
Detroit guy that got on in 57, bro.
1957.
And that's just what I'm talking about with the kitchen table. These guys are going to leave their stories on this kitchen table here for the rest of time, for all the young guys to come back and watch them over and over. Where else are you going to get that?
His grandson sent me an email. The one email that I read, actually.
You did? Oh. I want to thank I'm going to say hundreds and hundreds of people that came by the booth to ask Ruffy about the pizza cutter, too. That was priceless. Priceless. It was priceless.
Hey, I want to thank the 6 people who bought underwear.
Look, we sold a lot of the underwear. They're going on sale right now.
Underwear. We did.
They're fruit of the loom. Get out there. We sold a lot of underwear. They're on sale. It's the pull in case of emergency underwear and repack hose when dry.
Please take them.
Get them.
We have 1,000 still in quantities.
I kept telling him, dude, I'm not worried about the pizza cutter. I'm worried about the drawers, man. We got to get these drawers going here.
And we were on it. We put our best salesman on it, Cliffy Bear. He was on it selling. Listen, one more thing we got to thank. They are the best every year. It's Bobby and Red. Red is in charge of the PD out there, and Bobby's post is right outside where our booth is, and they are awesome. We love them to death. Pull up that picture. We took a picture. I wanted to get a picture with Red too, but she skedaddled out of there. There he is. There's Bobby. That's
this is when we were heading out of there, like our hair was on fire.
If I had a full head of hair, but you wouldn't know it because I lost it all.
It burned off.
It burnt out of there as I was running out of there.
I kept saying, Kev, slow down. You're burning your hair off your head.
Yeah. I couldn't wait to get behind the wheel for the 13-hour drive. It was I love it.
Oh, only 13 hours, huh?
Yeah.
It takes 363 days to forget about that drive so that you go, yeah, let's do that again.
Man, let's do it.
Oh,
man.
Harrisburg now. We're just marching on in shows, bro. Harrisburg, the 51st annual, May 19th and 20th. It's a Friday and Saturday, 10 to 5. We'll be in booth 436. Gonzo, you got the picture of the Harrisburg?
Yeah, I am. It's coming. Boom.
Lancaster, come and see it.
get your tickets, $10. It's
$10.
online.
How can you go wrong with $10, bro?
You get to see Coobs. Oh,
You
no,
get to
Coobs
see
ain't gonna be
so many things down there. The Amish, they're running around with their pages. I love it.
there.
We could probably get away with offending the Amish because they probably don't listen to the podcast. They can't, right? So,
Yeah, maybe you're right.
there's good pretzels and Amish people down there. It's a good show. All right, let's do some commercials. What do we got, Gons?
We have ours, and I'm assuming we're with Armor Tough still.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do our Mr. McBob first. Here we go.
If you're looking for a gift for that special firefighter in your life, then head on over to gettinsaltyapparel.com. Yes, gettinsaltyapparel.com. What do we have? Well, we carry hand-drawn original t-shirts, glassware such as mugs, shot glasses, pint glasses, engraved Arctic cooler cups, and much, much more. There's also a full line of firefighter tool bottle openers like Halligan's, nozzles, and wine bottle opener accesses too. And if you're a cigar smoker, congratulations! We have partner saw cigar cutters and humidors. Think we're done? Far from it. We got toiletry, gear bags, koozies, a full line of hats, decals, sweatshirts, and once again, so much more. We could also personalize most of these products, and if you want discounts, hey, you've come to the right place. We got discounts on large orders for promotion dinners, weddings, as well as installation dinners. Just head on over to gettinsaltyapparel.com.
We might have to reshoot that commercial and put in underwear. I think we're done. Far from it. We got
You
underdrawers.
sell out of the underwear? Far from it.
Far from it. Still at 80,000 pairs, so get in there.
Do it.
Do it, Gons.
Armor Tough interlocking floor tiles are the best choice to replace new or aging, stained, or cracked concrete or epoxy floors. Here's why. Armor Tough tiles come with a lifetime warranty and are usually installed in 1 or 2 days, depending on the size of your station, with virtually no disruption in daily operation. Armor Tough interlocking tiles are guaranteed from chipping, cracking, peeling, breaking, or staining. Once installed, the tiles are non-skid and non-slip and meet the ADA standards for the friction coefficient. The tiles are stain resistant and impervious to any chemicals or volatiles that are used in the fire service. Once installed, your floor will be easy to clean with just soap and water. Install an Armor Tough tile floor in your apparatus bays, offices, training rooms, workshops, exercise rooms, kitchens, banquet halls, or any other room in your station. Call Vince today for a no-obligation quote at 908-917-7697. Why install a breakable epoxy floor that will need replacing in 5 to 10 years when you could have a floor that will last a lifetime? Drop a Halligan on an Armor Tough floor and you won't see any damage. Don't try this with concrete or epoxy. Join the hundreds of career and volunteer fire departments nationwide who have chosen an Armor Tough interlocking tile floor. Armor Tough interlocking tiles are half the price of epoxy and will last a lifetime without issue. Again, call Vince today for a no-obligation quote at 908-917-7697.
Beautiful. We saw Big Vince down there. We were chilling with Big Vince a little bit. All right, what about the super chat?
By a second. A little slight delay. All right, my friends. Sorry, guys. You guys want to hit us up in the super chat? You want to support us? That's where we're going to do it, my friends. And here we go. If you want to support the show, like I said, if you got a question you need to ask this fine young gentleman tonight, please do so in the super chat. That's one way that we can guarantee your question will get answered. Other than that, that's what we have.
Beautiful. All right.
Beautiful.
Ruff, want to bring this gentleman in? You talk about guys with time on the job, bro. This guy was on the job doing it, Steven. He was doing it way before, I would say, almost everybody in the chat has been alive. So bring him on in, Ruff.
All right. Coming to the stage, 86-year-old Detroit FD firefighter Frank Decker.
There he is.
Mr. Decker, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great. You guys sound like you're doing good too.
You're
Thanks
looking
for-
good.
He is.
Got more hair
good.
than you, Kubi.
That's not hot. That's not a big feat, bro. I'm telling you. But it does look good. Thanks for coming on the show, Mr. Decker.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I'm excited about it. My whole family is too.
Cool.
I hope I don't embarrass anybody. Especially
Well, I mean, I do that
Long
to
as it's
myself.
Coobs, we're
I
good
do
with
that to
that.
myself every show, so it can't be any worse. Somehow, some way. Oh, it doesn't get worse. Oh, there's Tacoma Greimer. Geimer.
Yeah.
He's in there. All right, Ruff, before we hear all the stories from Mr. Decker from back in the 50s, you heard it right. I didn't say 80s. I didn't say 60s. I said 50s.
No.
You want to hear stories?
No.
Let's get a little patriotic.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
There she is, my girl MJ. We met her down there too, or over there. I don't want to say down there. Over there, we met.
that young lady had a powerful voice. Beautiful.
She did. Excellent. Gives me the chills.
Yeah,
Gives me the
it does.
chills. All right, Mr. Decker, let's roll back. Roofie, let's roll it
Roll it
back.
back.
How many decades? Let's roll it back.
A lot of
At
decades.
least, a lot of decades. At least seven decades. Let's go back to a young, brash, handsome Frank Decker. And let us tell us where you're from, where you were born, where you grew up, etc.
Okay, I was born in 1936 in Detroit, Michigan. My father was 44 when I was born, so he was born in 1893.
Oh,
He was in World War One. In 1948, they operated on his back for they thought were tumors. They were malignant. He never walked again. He was in a wheelchair from 1948 to 1965. They gave him 6 months to live 3 different times. My dad's idea was, and I hope that someday somebody will say you're a lot like your dad. He said, Butch, I was dealt a hand of cards. If I don't like them, I can throw them in and get out of the game, but I want to stay in the game and I'm going to play them the best I can.
wow.
Nice.
Powerful.
He never complained.
Never
When I-
gave up.
Nope. When I was 14, I'd go to his bedside. He'd say, bend over. And I'd bend my head down and he'd put his hands around the back of my neck. And he'd say, I prayed for a miracle last night. Let's see if I can walk. Never happened, but he never gave up hope. He never
Wow.
gave up hope.
Wow.
Just a fantastic example. And I hope I can be that way with my kids and my grandchildren. And he used to say, everybody's here for a reason. And I guess I'm in a wheelchair for a reason. And it's how I react to it. And that's what he did.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about
How do you-
how about siblings, Frank? You have any other siblings?
My older brother was drafted out of Northwestern High School when he was 17 and a half. He was in the ROTC and he was sent over and almost went to Germany as in a B-17. He was in the ROTC and Germany capitulated, and they were going to send him over to Japan. And I figured, I was only, 10 years old at the time. But I know my dad and mom were worried. But somebody came into his barracks and said, anybody whose education was interrupted, going to stay in uniform. You can choose the college you want. We'll pay for it, but you got to stay in uniform for your last 2 years of your enlistment. So he went to Houghton Mining and Technology College and graduated from there and got a PhD. And my brother Dick, who was 6 years older than me, he became a fireman in 1952 in Detroit. And I was working at the Wayne County Road Commission and had a good job. And the fire department called, and I asked my dad, what do you think? Should I leave the Wayne County Road Commission? He says, if it snows and rains, you can't work. Go to the fire department. You got a steady job like your brother in a retirement. So I took his advice, and I never regretted it. It's the greatest job in the whole world. You meet the best people in the world. They become family. They become, as you'll see a picture there of us 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Those
That
guys,
picture, Frank, that picture, go back to that ball, the ball there, Frank. Don't
Copy
get
that.
too far ahead.
Yeah,
The one with the ball. What's the story with this picture with your brother?
Give me a second. It's coming. Here we go. Sorry, guys. It's I have a little delay on my end. Here it comes.
okay, that's my brother Dick. He ran down in the 7th Battalion, and I always gave him the business. They were very slow. He'd be lucky if he got 1 or 2 runs a day. And here I am in the 9th Battalion. We're going constantly. But then when he became sergeant, he started getting Squad 2, Squad 4, Squad 8. He was all over, and he was a heck of a fireman. He really was, and I think everybody loved him, wanted to run under him. And
He did 40 years, right? You said
40 years. He retired as senior chief, and he had a heart attack when he was on the job, pulling people out of a car. I think he was in Squad 2 at the time, and it was below zero. And his men said, "Decker, you look terrible. What's going on?" He said, "I think on my way home, I'm going to stop in the emergency room." And that's the way he took it. And he had a heart attack. They kept him off the job for a year. And then he came back and started smoking again. And
Going into fires without masks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For a year, I'm okay now. But he
shines
retired.
up like a new penny.
He retired at 60 when he had to. And he lived for 9 years after his retirement and died on the table with a heart operation. So I miss him. I miss him to this day. My kids miss him. He had stories, and I'll tell you some of his stories later on. But that's him in his chief's gear. Look at how dirty he is. He was inside. He was never outside.
I always like those pictures where the guy's in action and he's not looking at the camera. That's always the best picture.
Candid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Candid pictures.
I could not find a shot of him, but he's hanging out of a second story porch as a chief, and the snot's running down, and I think it's hitting the first floor. And I'm wondering, why are you in there? You got a driver to tell you what's going on. No, he said, I got to be
Get in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't take that out of you, right? Once you get that bug, that's it. You can't stop doing that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was a good man.
What's with those helmets? They always had those helmets, Frank? What did they?
What happened is in 1967 during the riots, John Ashby got killed. He was up on an aerial and he was being sniped at, and they moved the aerial around and he hit the high wires and he was electrocuted. He lived for 9 days after he hit those wires. But John used to come to the squad from Engine 21. And when you're a squad man and you got somebody there that's want to make your head bigger where it hardly fits in the helmet, he was one of those guys. He just admired squad guys. And Decker, I want to be like you when I can get on the squad and stuff. And then he got killed. I think he had just gotten married. He was in his early 20s.
Oh, shit.
And he got killed. And then Carl Smith got shot during the riots right through his helmet, got killed. I went to high school with him. And I don't think he was in my class. I think he came to class after me, but he got killed. And I'll tell you, you get angry. I'm sure you guys were angry after 9/11 to see your men that you worked with, you knew you loved, get killed for something nonsensical. And now your guys know they were going in to do something. but Ashby and
to get shot for nonsense.
yeah, and then get pulled off switch the area around because of snipers. I'm sure that chief regretted that order, move the aerial. But anyway, that's not here nor there. We shouldn't be begrudging that. But these were guys that were good firemen, and something like a civil disturbance that happened there in Detroit. I was on the job. I think they got me on the squad as 1965, but in 1963, I was running at Engine 40, and Don Pemmett got his back broken. He was in the squad, and we had the same Kelly. And Lieutenant at Squad 5, Vaughn McIntosh, used to say, "Decker, you got the same Kelly as Pemmett. When you come in, you put your clothes on the squad." So I'd come in and put my clothes on the squad, and eventually they gave me a red helmet. And
that's a squad helmet?
Yeah, we wore tin helmets until Ashby got killed, and that was it. After that, I got a New Yorker fiberglass helmet that was heavy. Good grief. I can't believe how heavy that helmet was. And I actually lost my helmet during the riots on 12th Street. I told the guys, "Look out for my helmet if you see it." And one of the guys said, "Hey, we saw it the other day, Decker." I said, "Well, why didn't you pick it up?" He said, "Some lady was doing a washing in it." We had to start at 7.5.
It's a big helmet.
So
hold on. Let's go back. Let's not get too far ahead.
So you talked. I think Louis mentioned this in the pre-show. You didn't have an academy that you went to before you got on the job.
Well, what happened is the city fought from the union wanted 56 hours. They were working 63. The city fought it up until July 1st, but it was put on the ballot, and the fire department won, and we went from 63 to 56 hours. So I get a thing in the mail from the Detroit Fire Department, report to training school July 1st, 1957, which I did. I got there, and I figured, okay, I'm going to learn about ropes and hoses and all this stuff, and my boots are sitting there with my helmet. And he says, "Decker, do you know where Livernois and West Chicago is?" I said, "Yeah, of course." He said, "Well, you're going to Engine 42. So I pick up my gear. By 9 in the morning, I'm at Engine 42, and the captain, Stanley Dobus, said, "Decker, put your clothes on the back." And I think it was Gordy Smith was cooking. He says, "He's going, so we're only riding with 4. So I said, "Oh, okay." So I'm put my clothes on the back, and the alert goes off, or not the alert, the box comes in, because we had box and ticker tape then. So he said, 42's going. So we pull out, and he says to me, he says, "Decker, grab the can." I'm standing on the tailboard. Now, what in the world is a can? I have no idea what he's talking about. So they're hollering, "Extinguisher, kid, the extinguisher." So I picked that up. Don't know how to turn it on, but it was the old one with soda and acid. You turn it upside down. We get in there, it's a mattress fire. Now I'm running with this can up 2 flights of stairs, and the captain's in there, 50-year-old Stanley Dobus, and he says, "Okay, kid, just don't put the thing out. We got to just hose it down, and we're going to stick it out the window." I'm dying in there. But he said, "If I'm 50 years old, I can take it. You better be able to take it." So, okay, so we threw it out the window and everything. We get back to quarters. It's not even lunchtime yet. The cook is there now. And he says, the box comes in. It's Cunningham Drug Store, Joy Road and Grand River. So I'm standing on the back, and we get there, and there's smoke coming out of the back end. And he says, "Stretch." What? Stretch?
Not calisthenics, Frank.
Yeah, wait a minute.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
I'm a little tight in the back.
What are you talking about? Yeah, stretch, he's hollering. "Kid, grab that line." I did. I grabbed the wrong one. I grabbed the second bundle.
Oh,
and I'm
shit.
taking the belt off and everything, getting ready to grab the nozzle. And he says, "Kid, I hope you had something to drink today, because you're going to have to pee on that fire." The first line is going down the street, boom, 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 like that. And the senior man's chasing it. So finally, they get it back, give me the line, and I go in with Captain Dobus again. And we knocked the fire down. It wasn't that terrible. But that's how I got broke into the job.
So as soon as you walked in, you had 2 small jobs right off the bat from the time you walked in.
Right off the bat. And I only ran on the truck, ladder 21, for 3 months. I think I tillered maybe 2 or 3 times. And this should be a story I want to tell you. There was a young guy. I thought he was old, but he was in World War II. All the guys on the job when I came on had been in World War II, and they were a different breed of men. I tell you, after walking from Anzio to Berlin, or being over, my lieutenant in Engine 39 was in the submarines in North Atlantic for 2 years. How do you can't comprehend that.
Right.
They went through hell. They really did, but they were good firemen, I'll tell you. And they were old school. You don't need a mask. But Donetti was on ladder 21. He was a tiller man. He'd been in World War II. Skinny little guy, little Italian guy, skinny. And he's the tiller man, and they're going down. This before I was on. Going down, I forgot what street it was. They hit a bump, threw him out of the tiller seat, and his boots get hung up in the ladder. He's hanging upside down, and they're sideswiping cars. He's off duty for a year. I don't know.
Sideswiping cars.
How do you write that one up?
Yeah. He comes back on the job. I'm on squad 5 now. We get a call over to old Ditzler plant, which made all the lacquer for General Motors. We get a call over there, and it's now waste paper dump, baled waste paper. It's a 2-alarm fire. Squad 5 gets there. And I see ladder 21 is pulled in, their aerials up, and they got a hose tower going. He's on it. I was pretty sure it was Don. He's not buckled in. One of the engines shut down. It lifted him up off that aerial ladder. And the next thing, me and Pepper got a line. We're going in. And I look and I said, that's Donetti. And that line came whipping down and put him through the cab of the ladder 21. And I think he broke just about every bone in his.
Oh my God!
He was off duty
back then.
He was off duty for a year, and now I'm still in squad. He's back on duty, and I think he was a boss at Engine 57, or maybe squad 7. They came to relieve us at a fire the next morning. We're pulling out. I say, hey Don, I used to work with him washing windows. I said, hey, how you doing, Don? Oh, I'm good. I'm back on. He said, everything's cool. I'm walking out, 2.5 separated. The butt end hit him in the back and broke his back.
Holy shit.
This poor guy.
When he retired, I'll bet you it was a good half-hour medical report.
This thing was about this thick.
How old, is he still around?
Yeah. Well, he died.
Oh, he passed away?
Passed away.
That guy had to be in pain every time he woke up, for God's sakes.
Most of the people I talk about are going to be gone now.
Yeah, it's too bad.
I was the youngest. I thought the youngest in my class was Jimmy Siebert was, I think, 3 weeks younger than me.
How old were you, Frank?
When I came on, that picture, I just turned 21.
Wow.
You had to be 21 to get your badge. And I just
let me see the young Mr. Decker with the young Mrs. Decker. Because obviously he is the vice president of the Married Up Club.
Oh, yes.
Let me get there. Here we go.
All right. Take your time.
That's a great picture. Oh, my goodness gracious.
We were 19 and 17. That was in 1955. And I was working at Cadillac Motor. I grew up and hung around with her brother. And she was always in pigtails and a little girl. I never paid any attention to her. She was a pain in the neck, And Frankie and I would try and lose her whenever we would go out and do something.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You can't lose her. It's been how many years you said you can't lose her?
67 years we've been married.
God bless you guys.
But I was working at Cadillac Motor on the assembly line on the afternoon shift, playing ball during the day for Cadillac. And my buddy George was home on leave, and he had my car. And he brought Patty to pick me up one night. And I looked in the car, and I went, whoa, who is that? And he says, you know, that's Patty Frisch. Ooh, man, she's grown up,
17.
I invited her to come to my baseball game the next day, and she came and watched me play. And then I left my mitt at her house naturally, so I could go and pick it up.
Oh,
on purpose.
Slick move, bro.
That's an old school move right there. Old school.
Is that what the wink was for right here? Is that what
it's like? I left my mitt at your house.
You want to talk about a slick move? I said to her one day, this was in August 3rd of 1955. What are you doing for the next 25 years?
Nice.
what do you mean? I said, let's get married. And I just thought it was for 25 years. So now it's 67. I think she owes me something there.
Oh, she definitely owes.
What do you mean? You've been chasing her around the house all these years. Give her a break. She's tired.
But we've had four children. One of them's a firefighter in Charlotte, Josh. And I got to tell you the story about Josh. You're going to love this. I don't know if you guys have ever heard. There's Josh in his captain's outfit.
Little Birdie told me he was your favorite. I don't know. Just
that's what I told everybody. He was my favorite. But we were at the Midwest Firefighters bowling tournament, and we'd never taken our wives, our team. And this year it was in Waukegan, Illinois, and we decided to take our wives. There was me, Holy Cross, LaPrice, Tom Holt, and doesn't matter. Anyway, 3 of us had children within 3 or 4 days of one another. Josh was one of them. He's now a fireman. Tom Holt had a boy. He's retired from Detroit Fire Department now.
Wow.
So that fire department, there was something in the water in Waukegan.
yeah.
The priest had a little girl. But I get a call. I'm at 39s. I'm on the watch, and Lieutenant Brugge let me pull my car in what used to be an old chief's quarters behind 39s. He said, in case your wife calls, have it in there. It'll be warmed up. And if she calls, then you got to go. She called about midnight and said her water broke. I said, okay. I said, you think no hurry, just my water broke, no contractions yet. I said, okay. So we get my car out of the garage and everything, and I'm running back. It's 25 miles from the firehouse. I lived in the last street in the city. All of a sudden, I'm on Joy Road, and I see these red lights behind me. And I figured, man, if it's the cops, they're going to have to take all the way home. So I pull up my driveway, and it was Squad 7. They pulled up behind me. And Ted Jagera gets out, and he says, Decker, you got a little boy. What? Back then, you didn't know what sex your kid was. They didn't give you ultrasound.
Right.
So I go running in the house, and my older brother's there. He brought his daughter over to babysit while I go to the hospital with my wife. There sits Patty. She had the baby at home by herself. The baby's in her lap. She's all dressed, ready to go to the hospital. Me and my brother Dick cut the cord. And Antonetti was on Squad 7. He picked Josh up, wrapped him up, put him in his coat. He says, kid, he said, I got 10 kids, and none of them have been able to ride in the fire truck at your age. So here's Josh, brand new, conceived at the Midwest Fire Department bowling tournament, and now he's riding on a rig, brand new, baby. So
is he on this one particular?
Was
he on this rig?
I didn't get you.
No, I was on the squad rig. It was a squad rig.
Oh, the squad rig. Okay.
Yeah, they took him for a ride on Squad 7. And my sister-in-law, who my brother came over with her daughter to babysit, my sister-in-law called the fire department. So Squad 7 got there just behind me, and they knew a little boy was born.
So he already knew he was going to be a fireman the first day he was
born. I knew it right away. That kid's going to be a fireman. He's got to be, right?
And a good-looking one too. Look at him. I mean, he's thank God he looks like his mother. That's all I got to say.
Right. He's a well-respected. He goes back and trains now on. In fact, tomorrow he called me this morning and he said, Dad, guess what? He sounded like a little kid. We're teaching pompiers tomorrow.
No way. Really?
I think they're the only department in the country
that
teaches pompier ladders.
Yeah, I know the FDNY stopped doing that a couple of years back.
Were you on it? Were you on a pompier?
I did. Yeah, I actually did that in for my Proby class.
Isn't that
scaling ladders?
Yeah, the scaling ladder. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Lean back.
Yeah.
Is it hooked?
Yeah.
When we did the display for the families, I actually went from the first floor to the 6th floor, like hopscotching up.
Isn't that a great way to get up there?
Well, I'll tell you right now, it's a great way to shed any fear you have of heights.
Yes,
I mean, if you practice it enough.
Turn your underwear from white to brown, one or the other. I don't know.
Code brown.
Tiny whiteys.
He says, you're looking at those kids out the window when they let go, and you see that their eyes light up. You're right. It held. But
yeah, right. Nomini Patria, Spiritus Sancti.
I think the grumlets get a little bit bigger at that point in time,
Yeah.
and you feel a little better about that job.
Yeah, there is no doubt about that. No
But
doubt.
he's teaching it tomorrow. So that's my son
good job.
Josh. That was his christening on the job, and he's an old school fireman. And from everything I ever heard, he's was a good captain. They were sorry to let him go, but he goes back and teaches now. They pay him extra, and he said I get to see the guys and get to. He teaches.
Yeah, it's good.
And he teaches that class that you guys started, where you had 5 firemen had to go out the 5th floor and got killed.
Uh-huh.
Now they-
Bailing out.
Now they got that gear to
bailouts.
bail out. I don't understand that, but it's a heck of a lot better than getting yourself toasted, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. No, why did he go? Where was he? He was in the Carolinas, Frank. What?
Yeah, he's in Charlotte, Carolina.
What made him go that way? Why did he go? Why did he go from? Why did he not try to get on here? Why did he go to Charlotte?
Jordan's dad,
What's that?
he lived in Charlotte, and Jordan was born in, I think, Charleston, South Carolina. Then they moved. They're in the medical profession, so they were in Charlotte. I haven't got to that yet, but I broke the rules on the fire department. I confess. Now, I moved
Good.
out. I
Get it
moved
off
out.
your chest.
I moved out of the city in 1970.
Nice.
And I lived 70 miles out of the city. We had a farm. So my kids were brought up on a farm. Josh was 10 months old. He was born in 1970. He was 10 months old when we moved to the farm. I got hurt in 70. Well, I got retired in 73. So he grew up on my lap on the tractor. I had a John Deere 4020, and I learned to be a farmer. And
Look at Roofy's.
Maybe I'm going to hire Frank to come on down to Iowa. Maybe he could show me a couple of perners,
about the tractor.
yeah, and him and I, he's my favorite son. There's no doubt. I don't love him more than the others, but he became a fireman, and him and I bonded. My 2 older boys, I was working 3 jobs. That's another story.
Well, hold on. Let's get back. Let's get back
Let's
to
get back to the timeline. Yeah.
Scoob's over there like he's enjoying
I'm
himself,
sorry.
but I want to make sure we stay on the timeline.
All right. So engine 42, and then you went to engine 21 and ladder 28 in September of 58. Why? What made you want to go over there?
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
To be honest with you, Captain Radar, who I thought was a little bit of a, anyway, he's gone. I don't hope he doesn't have relatives listening, but he wanted to separate me and Herbie Hahn. Herbie had been on the job quite a while, and he was a duck carver, decoy carver, and liked his beer. And me and Herb became tight. And he said, he was.
Let me just pull that out of the back somewhere. I don't know.
Nobody's got those hanging around except me. I'm sorry, Frank. Go ahead.
I carved decoys.
Is that right?
Anyway, me and Herbie would take telephone poles down the basement of 42s, and
Nice.
Detroit Edison would drop them off, and he'd carve decoys out of those telephone poles, and I'd sit down there in the basement. I don't want to get into what goes
Politics.
on, but anyway, Captain Radar said, I got to separate you two. I don't know if you're bad for Herb or Herb's bad for you. So there was somebody going to 21s. That was me. When I got to 21s, it was great. Busy house, loved it. They get a call over there from engine 40 that they had a Captain Weber. And they also had a Roger Weber, who was a decky. And the guys would walk around and say, Weber, you're an a-hole. And Captain Weber finally got sick and tired of that. And he called the chief and he said, you got to get rid of Roger Weber because it's driving me nuts. They're using him to get to me. So do you have somebody over at 21s that you can send to 40s? Well, that was me. I got sent to 40s. And I ran at 40s. And in they got me down for the squad at 65. Mm-hmm. I actually started running the squad at 63. Don Pemmett, who had broken his back at a fire, had the same Kelly as me. And Lieutenant Vaughn McIntosh used to say, Decker, you got the same Kelly as Pemmett. Put your clothes on the rig when you come in. And he actually painted my helmet red after a while. And until 65, I was officially in the squad. And I think like everybody nobody likes squad men, right?
Nope.
They're a pain in the neck.
Cancel the squad.
And so you don't want to be on there. But once you get on the squad, it's a different ball game, isn't it?
It is.
And I'll say this: while I was on the squad, we had a big district. Squad 5 had a real big district, and there was mansions. Barry Gordy had the Kresge Mansion that was on Chicago Boulevard. We had things like that. We had mansions up in Palmer Woods, 7 Mile and 8 and off of Woodward, and then we had slums. We had ghetto, and we were busy, real busy squad. But we had a big district, and I've always told guys, I never would take the line if the guy didn't want to give it up.
That's a true truth.
But we knew houses when we ran in the squad. We knew we get in the district. We knew we didn't get off the rig with a tool. We got off the rig knowing we're going to get the line. The guys were there ready to give it up. And other times, if you went with 21 or some of the ones down in the 9th Battalion, you knew you're going to grab your Halligan bar or your axe and you were going to go to work, pike pole. And but some houses, you took the line. And that's what I loved about the squad, is you could get the line and go in and fight the fire. I was never on a truck except for 3 months. I was always on an engine. To me, that was fighting fires. I always thought truck men were just crazy painters,
Frank, you know what me and Coops say all the time about the squad? How many guys can you fit in the fire building? Coops?
At least 5 more.
At least 5 more.
So how many squads does Detroit have, Frank?
They had 7.
7 squads. Okay,
Yeah.
So, and what was their staffing like? How many guys rode on the squad?
We always rode 5 on the squad. There was 60 engines. I would say the trucks were in the 30s numbers in there. And so you can figure only 7 squads. You had a big district.
Yeah.
And you could catch a lot of good fires. And so for that reason, I did love the squad. I really did. I didn't like the medical. Be very honest with you. We didn't have that much. We were not EMT. We got called down to downtown one time. The Red Cross were going to have a training schedule for squad companies. So we go down there, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this guy talking about how to do this and how to do that and how to rescue people and all this. And I was sitting there, and Libby looked at me. Red Libby was one of my favorite guys. Libby looked at me, said, "Don't, Decker." And I said, he said, "Did anybody ever save a drowning person?" And I put my hand up, and he says, "Well, what did you do?" And I said, "Well, it was here in the Detroit River." And I said, "We pulled him halfway out, and I put a pump on him." And I said, "We started pumping." I said, "Good grief, we were pumping sardines out of him." I said, we were pumping beer cans out of him. I said, "If we hadn't pulled his fanny out of the water, I don't know what we'd have pumped out of him." And that guy said, "That's it. The class is all done."
What kind of rig did you have back then, Frank? What was the squad rig like?
It was a Chevy with a Gorchenschlager body. They redid it, but the brakes were terrible on them. They were brakes just like you'd have on a panel truck.
Right.
And I don't know how many times we'd have 4 or 5 runs in a row, and you get to the fire and you'd go right past it.
Draw out the anchor.
Yeah, it was terrible.
So you would go to every fire in your district, the squad?
Yes. If there was a hospital, if there was multi-story buildings like orphanage or something, there'd be 2 squads. Usually squad 5, squad 4, maybe squad 5, squad 7. And we were busy, 20 some runs a day, mostly fires. And I love that. The only thing is, after the riots, they became ambulances. And to me, that was, me and Libby said, "Let's get out of here." And me and Red went to 39s. And 39s had orders to run with 5 because the apartment house, single engine. Somebody would ask me, "Well, what was the tools you carried?" I don't know if you guys must be familiar, because the apartments that you guys have, hose roller and rope. That was the young man. He carried the hose roller and rope. a lot of our apartments back then, it's hard to believe, but we carried, I would say, probably almost a foot-long piece of railroad track on a 60-foot logging chain. We carried that in a paper bag, and that was for incinerators. Incinerators would back up.
You would drop it up. You would drop it down
and try to break up the incinerator.
Yeah.
Shit.
Guys used to do that with bricks and stuff too, right?
They don't do that anymore. Nobody would understand that. What we got there? We got.
I tried to pull up an old rig while you guys were talking. I'm not sure if it's the right one from your department, so I was trying to see if that rings a bell. What year was your rig? I could try to do some research if you wanted to pull it up.
Oh,
well,
good.
It have to be in the 65.
That's actually what I looked up. A 1965 rig is what I looked up to see if that's what the came up.
All we had in Detroit was Seagraves. I think there was one Mack and one four-wheel drive. Seagraves had, with the department, that purchasing department, they had a thing where that's all you could buy was Seagraves. So after the riots, people started looking at that and they said, these are way too expensive and everything. Why don't we buy something else? Well, after the riots, 39's got a Ford with a GMC diesel in it. Fantastic rig, really great rig. Had a hose roller, automatic, and that was nice. You got 500 gallons of water. You can knock down a little car fire or a mattress and stuff, so we didn't have to stretch all the time. But the rigs were all Seagraves and trucks and everything. And then they stopped that. When we moved down here to the Carolinas in 1994, there's a little town out of here, Double Island. And one of the guys that I worked with at Habitat said he worked as volunteer fireman at Double Island. Why don't you come up and see what we got? They had the old rig that I ran out in.
Is that right? That's crazy.
What are the odds of that, man?
At 42 is an old Seagraves, still in beautiful shape. When
you were working like in the first companies and in the squad, we've had a few guys from Detroit. Were you like having bare bones equipment? Like you guys were, as far as obviously your turnout gear, you said you only had a rubber coat and a helmet and boots. But as far as equipment, how was your equipment at that time?
Our equipment was good. We had 1,500 firemen. Everything was good then. The city was the fifth largest city in the United States. So we were. Mayor Mariani did not like the fire department. We were tied to the police department. When the police department got a raise, we got a raise. Mariani didn't like that. Kavanaugh came along, and he beat out Mariani. He said he'd give us a raise, and he would take care of the firemen. So Kavanaugh was there during the riots, but up until then, we had good equipment. Not the best. I seen during the riots, Lansing came, Canada came over. They had better equipment than we did. When I would go on the Midwest firefighter bowling tournaments, there were squads that had defibrillators. I had a resuscitator. That's what I would carry in sometimes. All that does is make a person's chest go up and down, and they think, oh, he's alive. He wasn't alive, but we didn't say
blowing air in his lungs.
Yeah, that's all. And we'd take him out of there on a stretcher, and everybody's saying, "Oh boy, the fireman saved him." We didn't save him, But
let's talk about the riots a little bit, Frank.
Okay.
What years did they start over there in where you were?
In July of 1967, I was on Kelly. I was out cutting the grass. My neighbor had a, what do you call it? Where you pick up radio calls?
Scanner.
And he was walking over to the house, and I was cutting the grass as Patty was coming out the front door, hollering, Ed Smith's on the phone from Squad 5. So I take the phone call, and Smitty says, Decker, something's going on down in 12th and Claremont, and all the stores are closed and everything. Come on in, fill up the station wagon with ginger ale and cigarettes and whatever else you can think of. So I did. I filled it up with ginger ale and
I have the smokes, right?
smokes and chewing tobacco, and I pull in
allegedly
the quarters, and they said, we're evacuating the quarters. We're going to go over to 42s. That's where I started on West Chicago and Livernois. I knew Fred Steiner there, so I drove the station wagon over there, Steiner was there, and I give Fred my keys. I said, Fred is full of ginger ale and cigarettes and whatever. You got the keys. You distribute the stuff the way you want, and I know you're going to be good with it. And you got the keys. And so me and Pepper were on the squad, and they gave us a lieutenant who just came to the squad, and he was an ex-Chiefs driver, and all he wanted was medical calls. So Bob and I ran on the squad with him, and the first fire we had, we were at it looked like they might have sold furniture there and things, and it's going, and we're in there with the line, Pepper and I, and we're knocking the fire down, and all of a sudden I see this guy come in, and he's trying to pick up, you know how big TVs were back there in the 60s?
Yeah.
Tubes, you know. He's
Yeah.
trying to pick this TV up, and him and his buddy, and they finally get it out, and they laid it down, and they came back, and they got another one. And we're fighting the fire, and, you know, everybody, the police just left them alone. They were looting and doing whatever they wanted. So they get these two TVs, and they're thinking, how are we going to get them home? So they grabbed a bed on casters, threw them on the mattress, and down they go.
Wheeled it home. Oh my God.
On 12th Street with the TVs. Nobody,
Kind of like now.
nobody's bothering them, you know. Now, okay, I think this. I told my daughter, I said, the riots were only 5 days, honey. I said, I was on there for 16, 17 years fighting fires, but the riots were 5 days. 5 days straight. Me and Pepper never, if we didn't ride the squad, we would jump on ladder 17 and ride with them. And we just wanted to fight fires. It's you know, it's like being at a Polish wedding. You're just so happy. You're hoping it doesn't end. It is terrible that you would think that your city's burning down, but you're enjoying fighting. That's what you do that's what you love to do. You're putting fires out. I wasn't happy when they jumped over the alley and the side streets, Philadelphia, and Seward, all these houses, 2 flats, start burning. And now all we got sometimes is we just got hydrant pressure. We hooked up to a hydrant and we're fighting fires there. But 12th Street well, there you go. You know, that's sad. That's, when you look at it, it's terrible. I can say one thing that I hope people will look at and say, this is uplifting. In 1967, Detroit and Boston were fighting for the pennant. And before the riots, we'd be driving down the street and we could holler at the neighbors, what's the score? And they'd holler out what the Tigers were doing. And then the riots came, and I used to shop on the boulevard at an A&P store. And I can remember going in there, and all you wear as far as a uniform is you got your sand fries on, but you got a fire hat on. And I'd go in and I'd bring my groceries up to the checkout, and they wouldn't check me out. And I called the manager, and the manager would come over, and finally he'd check me out. So there was this animosity there. There was this hatred for no reason, I didn't think. And then 68 comes along, and the Tigers win the pennant and win the World Series. Black and whites were the happiest people in the world. They were dancing in the streets in downtown Detroit. The politicians didn't bring them together. Detroit Tigers did.
Wow.
You know, the politicians aren't going to solve any of these problems, but sports teams will. Maybe a good movie will. Something will hopefully change it. But I got a good story about the riots. I'm angry. We got 2 dead firemen. Saw a lot of people shot and killed. You're mad. You're tired. You're dirty. You've been fighting fires for 3 days in a row. We're coming down. Alfie Evans is lieutenant. Constantine Andrews is driving. Bob Pepper and me are in the back end. This car keeps coming up real close to the back of the rig. I'm getting angry with it. It's a big Buick, and I'm looking at the guy driving, and I'm not happy with that. I told the driver, I told Gus, stop at the next light. He stopped. I opened the door, climb out, take my axe, throw it down on the guy's hood. Not a nice thing, right? The guy's eyes are so big, and he says, my wife's having a baby.
No. Whoops.
Didn't have a shovel.
Whoopsies.
I didn't have a shovel, or I'd have dug into that pavement and crawled under. We get her out of the car, put her on the rig, me and Bob, and the husband parked his car and got on. He never said anything to me. He was never mad. He thanked us. She had twins.
Wow.
No way. On the rig or at the hospital or?
One on the rig, a little
No
boy.
way.
We delivered him, put him
Come
up.
on, man.
And she looked at me and she says, "What's your name?" I said, "My name's Frank." That didn't sound good to her, I guess. And Bob Pepper. Bob didn't sound good. She says, "Who's up front there?" And I said, "Well, that's Constantine Edwards. We call him Gus." I like that.
Gus?
So, I don't know if she was going to name that little boy Gus or not. We got him with, you know, we didn't have good clean stuff on the rig, you know, but we got him covered up on her chest. We didn't cut the cord, and we got her on his chest. And I see she's starting to crown. She's starting to have another baby. And I said, "Close your legs." And I hollered at Gus, "Go to West Chicago General."
Step on it, baby.
Right down the street. And we got her in there, and they delivered the second twin.
Oh, wow. That's
another
cool.
boy. So, you know, good things do come about of bad situations.
Right.
But I felt like that big, I'll tell you. He had every reason to punch me. He had every reason to sue me. And all he did was thank me for stopping and helping his wife out. So that
Wow.
was one of my riot stories that have some good ending to them. But there was a lot of bad stuff went on. We got called down one night, Ivory Brother Warehouse, and I was riding ladder 17 with John Hedgecock, Lieutenant, and Pepper. And we get down there and there's nothing. But there's people up in the apartment houses, and they got flashlights and everything. And you're a little scared. You know, there's been enough sniping going on. We got off the rig and we're looking around. There's nothing going on. There's no fire at the Ivory Brother Warehouse. So we get back on. We're going back, and Lieutenant says they're calling us back again. We went back, and then we saw this kid laying on the street. He had been shot. He was dead. Didn't have a T-shirt on. He had a pair of blue jeans and his sneakers, and he was laying there dead. And those people are looking out the window. Had they had guns, they probably would have shot us. You know, there was anger there.
With the fire department too, huh? Not
Oh,
just the
sure,
police.
sure. Even the FBI talked to us after the riots, took us aside, wanted to know different things that we'd seen. And the first night at 42s, we were getting a lot of sniper fire. And you could see it hitting the pavements. We'd dive under the rig. We'd do whatever.
Oh, shit.
And there was automatic weapons. I mean, there was automatics going on. So National Guard came down from Upper Peninsula. Upper Upers, they call them. Those guys should know how to shoot and everything else, right? That's all
Yeah,
they
it's more
got is
country
deer.
right up there.
Yeah, up in the upper, that's all they got is deer up there. So
Right.
this one guy comes up and he says, "What's going on?" And the lieutenant said, "They keep shooting at us." He said, "Well, you got that street light. Let's put the street light out and they can't see us so good." Good idea. Why didn't we think of that? Well, we don't have any guns. Oh, he licked his thumb, looked up at the light and shoots. It doesn't go out. Shot again. It still didn't go out. Somebody said, what rig are you on? You know, we don't want you on our rig. A few days later, they took all their bullets away. One guy was 35s, was doing a parade thing, showing them how to operate a rifle, and it
Right,
went
right.
off, hit the pavement, went up to the cabinets. Another guy was sitting on a rig, went over a railroad track. His rifle went off. National Guardsman creased the fireman's helmet and went out through the top of his helmet.
Wow.
Pull the bullets out. Now these poor guys are sitting on the squad rig in front of the tillerman, sitting there like little Buddhas with a gun with no rifles in them. I mean, no
No
bullets.
bullets. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
And they're saying, "Don't go down that street. Please don't go down that street." But hey, you got to go to the alarm, you know. And there was a lot of sniper fire going on. And then the third day, President Johnson called in the Army. So these
Oh, the
guys,
National Guard. Yeah.
yeah, no more National Guard. There was regular Army. They had bayonets on their guns. They had jeeps.
Oh, I
with-
didn't know that.
Yeah, they had Jeeps with 50 caliber machine guns on the back. And we were getting sniped at every night at 42s. And somebody said they thought there was somebody every once in a while would see something on this roof of a house that you could see from 42's quarters. Sure enough, they had cut through and they had raised the shingles up and shoot from there down at where we were.
Oh shit!
That 50 caliber machine gun took that roof off. I've never been in the service, and I've never. They're awesome. They really are.
Yeah.
Bricks go flying, everything. And I figured, well, we're safe now. We got, and then on Linwood, there was a statue of Jesus on Saint Precious Blood. I think it was a seminary. They had painted him face black, his hands black, and they had pulled cars across Linwood. So we'd get a call down there to a store or a house, and we couldn't get through. The cars were there. Tank came down the street. That car, it hit
the hell out of there
and squashed it.
No way! Nice.
On it, and these kids were having the greatest time. They wanted to pull another one out there and see it get squashed. But
I tell you right now, we could probably use a little bit of that in some of the places. What's going on? I see.
The Army changed a whole lot. They really did. Me and Pepper had some guys bothering us. We had the line, and they were bothering us. And this guy walked up with his bayonet, and he kept saying back up, and he wasn't moving quick enough. He hit him in the nose with that bayonet, and that was it. They left us alone.
Lights out, baby.
They were
Law and order, baby.
I'm trying to think what group they were, but they had just come back from something. 67, probably Nam, right?
Yeah.
And they weren't fooling around. There was no fooling around at all. I don't know if that's why there was 43 people killed. I don't know, but there was 43 people killed in Detroit.
I'll tell you right now, everything you said, when I see some of these videos going on and what's happening, like with our police, the term "no fooling around" kind of really comes to my mind. Like we shouldn't be fooling around anymore with this stuff that we're doing. We're allowing to go on because of the rights or whatever these people think or this country thinks is going on. I'm not really sure, but that term "no fooling around," I think we could use a little bit of that right now.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you know Tiger baseball, but Willie Horton back then was a graduate of Northwestern High School, built like a tank, a heck of a hitter, had an arm on him that you wouldn't quit. He played right field or left field for the Tigers. They called him down to the Riots. They threw bricks at him.
Really?
John Conyers, he was a black congressman. They called him down. They threw bricks at him. They took 39's crew, all white, and put an all black crew in there. They threw bricks at him. It didn't matter. It wasn't
it wasn't black and white. It was just anger.
It was anger at the physical
system
and the fire. They didn't like us all of a sudden. Before that, we were heroes. I was sitting on the back of a rig. If you ever see pictures of the guys during the riots, you might wonder. The city, the Detroit Fire Department, had a 100th anniversary coming up, so we were allowed to grow handlebar mustaches, and they were wearing the red shirts that button angle. Right, and I was sitting on the back of a rig out in the middle of 12th Street. I was whipped, tired. One of the store owners, and he had a big sign on his window, "Bro," but he would bring out beer and whatever. And it's July, it's hot.
Ginger ale.
Yeah, ginger ale. And we're sitting there, and this little lady came down the street, and it's smoky. She's walking down through the smoke, and she's got a pitcher and ice water and cups. And she came up to me and she says, "Mr. Fireman," she poured me a glass of water, and there was a guy that looked like he was on an African safari with cameras all over him. And he posed it. He had her do it again and took a picture. Here I am with this handlebar mustache hanging down, dirty and everything, sitting there. And she poured me a glass of water. And he said, "Kid, it's going to be on Time magazine." I never saw it. I don't know. Maybe they didn't like the pose or whatever, but it never got anywhere. But I thought that they were nice people. That was their houses that were burning down.
Yeah, it's craziness.
It was their businesses. Now, okay, we're through the riots, I hope, because that's
How did they end that? Like, how did
I was
it?
gonna ask you,
How,
what
how,
final
how was it
vote for
5
when?
days and then that was it? How did that
I-
come
I
about? Was it
really-
the Army?
I really don't. I think the Army was the big thing. The 50 caliber machine gun on the back of a Jeep.
Yeah,
was
that'll do it. That'll do
big
it.
deterrent, and tanks. And one night, me and Pepper, we didn't have a rig to ride on, so we jumped on an Army troop carrier and rode down the Grand River in Trumbull, and there was a furniture store burning. And the deputy came down with his driver, deputy chief of the department, and he said, "What rig are you guys on? We don't have a rig. We're just going over there to work on that fire." "Well, you're going to go downtown." We looked downtown. There's no red downtown. It's just the sky isn't glowing red, and that's where we were. It was all red. It was all burning. So I said, "We're not going to go down there."
Holy mackerel!
And he said to me, he said, "Where do you run at?" And I took my flashlight and I pointed it up to Squad 5. And he said, "You can't even read that." And I said, "Well, that's because it's been in a few fires. I can read yours really good." I was not disciplined. Had kind of left. It really had. And we didn't even know if we were going to get paid. We just thought we were going to get paid for the days we were supposed to work. I worked 5 days straight. And during the second day of the riot, I didn't hear it from firemen. I heard it from people that were rioting. "We're going to go out to EJ Corvettes," which was out in West Chicago, and Telegraph, which was 5 blocks from my house. I called my wife and I said, "Patty, get the kids and go to your mom and dad's out in Utica and get out of there, because I don't know if we're going to be safe." It was that bad. I mean, there was, and I guess we can talk about it. I guess it had something to do with Detroit. When I went to 39s from Squad 5, that was 1 block from where the riots started. 39s. They were the first engine at the riots. We get over there, me and Libby, and Holy Cross, LaPrice, fantastic crew. Brugge was the lieutenant. And we go down the street and we get bottles thrown at us, especially me being blonde. And there were guys standing on the corner. I don't know if you remember Black Panthers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, they'd be standing on the corner, especially down on 12th Street in Claremont, down in those places where there was a light, with pamphlets. How to make Molotov cocktails, throw them into fire trucks, how to cut stairs through.
How
We
to
put up with-
sabotage the buildings, huh?
Yeah, we put up with that after the riots. And they would get a 5-story apartment, all freshly plastered, new plumbing, everything done.
And wreck it.
And they would go in there and start putting 5-gallon gasoline cans on every landing with wicks on them. We go in there with a line, and all of a sudden, are we going to be able to make it up there before something blows? And that's what we put up with after the riots. And they were marching with rifles on their shoulders, the Black Panthers. They had
Right.
people streets that we had to get police escorts to go down. And they had sandbags on the porches with little slits.
No shit.
Oh yeah, it was bad down there, and they let it go. I know you can carry a rifle. Good grief, you see pickup trucks with the rifles on the back, So that's not against the law. But when you start marching with them and telling you how to make Molotov cocktails, something's got to stop. They can't allow that to keep going. But that's the way it was down
And
there.
that was different times too, because then that was the time when there was a lot of revolt, I guess, against the war too, right? So there was a lot of that going on too. So
In the 60s.
yeah, alternative thinking, right? Everybody wasn't thinking the same way. It was kind of split down the middle somewhat.
Do you remember Huey Newton? That ring a bell?
I know the name. I heard the name.
Okay, he was out in California, I think, and he was somewhere anyway. A policeman was shot and killed. So they threw him in jail. There was a big poster down off of the expressway down by the firehouse. It said "Free Huey." After the riots, so guy with a sense of humor took a spray can and Dewey and Louie.
Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Did we cheat him and how?
So was that the beginning of the end for Detroit, Frank? Was that when it started to, I guess, turn for the worst?
Yeah. There was a sign on Woodward and 8 Mile. That's the city limit. the last one out of the city, turned the lights off. And it just, it was an exodus. I should have been thinking, 39s isn't going to be busy. Everything's burned down. And they're moving out. And that was the whole premise of it, is we're going to take over the city. And that's what happened. They moved out into the other areas, and 12th Street became Rosa Parks Boulevard. And most of the stuff is gone. There's hardly any buildings on it anymore. And
what year did you move the family? You did that early?
1970.
Yeah, so right around that time, you're like, this is it. You know, it's going bad here.
Well, I don't want to get too political, but the PTA had a meeting, and I went to our school. I had my oldest boy was 10, and my other boy was 8, and they said, we're going to bus people in from the inner city. Hey, I work with them every day. Fine, that's good. My kids got to get used to it. Bring them in. I have no problem with that. A lot of people in the PTA looked at me and, what are you saying? I said, hey, that's no problem as long as they don't change the curriculum. Oh, no, Mr. Decker, he's going to have the same book. Everything's going to be fine. He's going to go up, or not to say, he's going to go his next grade. They came home with the same book they'd had the year before. They set him back a year. I went over to school, and I was talking, and this young teacher came up, and she said, I know your boy Mark and Steve, they're blonde-haired and blue-eyed. They're never going to have problems in this world. He says, ma'am, I'm blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and I've had problems all my life. Everybody does. It's how you do it and how you accept it.
Yeah.
And so I told Patty, we're moving. And we took a terrible discount on our house. It was the last street in the city. But we moved out 70 miles.
Wow. I did the same thing.
Had a farm. Yep.
Gons, pull up the picture of the 50. This is a good time to pull up that 50-year apart picture.
Okay. It's coming. I was going to get, I wanted to go to the old, what do you call it, photos too? The old Firehouse ones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. These are guys that I ran with in the 9th Battalion. And the last three to my, looking at it to my right, the last two, Frank Tata and Bill DePriest and myself had a business together. Holy Cross, not so much. But we ran with Holy Cross at 39s. One of the funniest, had more fun with Jim. He was a fantastic guy to have around the Firehouse. Us 4 guys were always together at parties, in our families. We all grew up kind of the kids together. Then we get a call from Bill Frank, and he said, Tata's down in Florida, and he's got cancer, and he doesn't have long to live. So
that's the top picture. He's second in from the right, correct?
The one with glasses on, yeah.
Right.
That's Frank Tata. Heck of a, he's the second one in the right in the bottom. His boys said, you know, you guys, I got a picture of you guys after the riots. He said, let's set it up the same way. So that's
great idea.
That's what we did. Holy Cross he lives in Michigan and Florida. He's still kicking. LaPriest lives in Arizona. Tate is gone. And of course, myself, I'm here in the Carolinas. But
that's a great picture.
There's something about fire department. You guys know it. You love the guys you work with.
Mm-hmm.
The ones you don't love, pretty soon, a lot of times they don't even sit around the table with you. They're out, they're on the phone or they're doing something else. It's not family, but the guys that you love become family. And did you love them more than your family? I don't want to make my wife mad, but yeah, there is a certain thing there. I give my life for my family, no doubt. But I would go in the fire. Libby told me at my retirement party, he told the guys, he got the mic, and he said, if I was ever in a fire and I couldn't get out, Decker would come and get me. And he says, Moeller would figure out a way to get me, but Decker wouldn't even figure out a way. He'd come and get me. And that made me feel so good that we loved each other that much, and we did. And me and Red, when he had cancer, he told me, I never have chemo. I went to see him in the hospital, and he said, the worst thing I did is I quit smoking. He says, I only got days to make it. And
might as well keep doing what I'm doing, right?
Yeah, he said, they could have given me as much chemo. I'd take it every day if it gave me another day. And man, I held him and hugged him, and we cried together, and he was my buddy, and I hate to see him go, but that's life. And he handled it good. He handled it good. And
You know what? That's funny you say that, Frank, because we got a lot of guys from 9/11. Obviously, getting it was an everyday thing where Kevin and I see somebody who's dying of cancer, right? Some guys younger than us, some guys older than us, but it's kind of almost a foregone conclusion that And I always kind of feel, it's funny that you say that, because I always feel like if it does happen, what is my reaction going to be? Am I going to be angry? You're talking about your dad. He got dealt a hand, and he lived through it, and he took it the best he could take it, right? And I always think to myself, I try to think if that was the case, I made it through 9/11. I've had a lot of, quote unquote, I've had gravy, all these years now. You know what I mean? I've been around. I've had to retire. I've got to share a lot of stuff with a lot of my friends, and so I kind of hope that I will have that. If that time, I mean, God forbid, I hope it doesn't come, but if it did, that I would have that type of
dignity and grace
to say, you know what, I did good. I'm going to go out like that, because the way you describe these guys, you have even more respect for them for how they did that, right? I mean, you talk about your dad like that, you talk about your friend like that, you could just tell that it's important to do that as well. I don't know, maybe I'm just yapping.
no, Lou, we're here for a reason. I really believe that. We're put here on this God's green earth for a reason, and that's to affect someone else. And hopefully, when if I had something like that, life-changing or a cancer, that the way I handled it would affect my children, somebody that's near to me and knows me, that it's going to affect somebody. My wife had stage 4 cancer, and we talked before she went to the hospital to see a doctor. And your mind goes there, right? It could be cancer, and you cry. It doesn't hit you until they tell you got cancer.
Yeah, right, no doubt.
And then the oncologist tells me stage 4. We're going to keep her. We're going to give her 19 radiation treatments and 9 chemo treatments. And I'm sitting there. Am I going to lose my wife? All these years, how are you going to handle it? Well, she said, I turned it over to the good Lord, and it's taken all that burden off of me. It's on him now. And her and I sat there, and there was a calmness about it. We felt that if this is it, and my son was here and the family was here. Everybody congregates, right? When somebody's sick and you got a doomsday report.
Yeah, life-changing stuff, right? For everybody.
Yeah, and everybody's sitting there. All my kids, my grandkids are crying. And here's my wife sitting there. She's bald. Her hair's gone. And my son, Josh, she said to Josh, Josh, I'm not going to make it. When I go, I want you to have Dad sell the house. And he says, Mom, where's he going to bring his girlfriend? And all of a sudden, it broke
the levity.
It broke everybody up. And Patty even laughed. And she said, yeah, why am I so down? Why am I sad like this?
And snapped her out of it, right?
Yeah. And
good stuff. That's why he's your favorite.
Yep, he is. He's a special young man. And I know there's firemen that have gotten him to be best man at their wedding and flown him over to wherever they're having the ceremony at nowadays. And they love him because when he was a captain, he cooked. He scrubbed floors.
What the hell? Well, Roofie.
Yeah, he just said, hey, I'm here all day long. We're going to keep this place clean. We're going to do this. We're going to have fun. And we're going to enjoy our... Can you imagine they were shooting for 5,000 calls a year? He says, Dad, I sometimes don't have enough time, even with a computer, to get all my paperwork done.
Get the runs in the book, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. And he said, it's so much medical. ODs, we got narc. Am I doing anybody a favor by putting a Narcan in their nose? No. He says, sure, they come back, but we get the same person.
Yeah, you're going to see the same guy in 2 days.
Yeah. And he said, I'm getting so jaded. I'm getting so discuss it with people, and I'm thinking to myself, do I want to continue here? He retired. He was 50. He had 27 years on, and he retired. And I know they hated to see him go, but he says, Dad, I'm getting where I'm not happy when I come home.
Once you get angry from that, and it, like you said, if you do the job long enough, that's why I kind of, when I see people on the news or whatever, they say, well, how could this guy do that? And I tell people, I tell my family, over time, you do 5,000 runs a year, and you see crap, and you see, people who don't give effort, right? I used to say all the time, there was so much effort from firemen for people with no effort sometimes, right? It just felt like we were doing this, like you just said, we were doing the same thing over and over again. It was like Bizarro World. Every day was the same thing. And you do get to the point where, Kevin and I talked to a lot of guys like yourself, when it's time, right? 27 years. I did 27 years. Kevin did 20 years. When it's time to go, because it's not the same thing anymore. You know what I mean? That's why it's a young man's job. You need fresh eyes. Your eyes have seen too much, probably.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the DVD burn?
I have not, but guys, guys
keep talking about that. We got to get a copy of that, Ruff.
Yeah.
You got to see it. There's an engineer on there. I think his name's Parnell, and he said, "My eyes have seen things that my head can't forget."
Yeah.
And there's stuff that you see and you say, why is this going on? Why can a ball team bring a city back together and then the politicians just split it up again? Why? My kids are going to say, Dad, you didn't tell the, okay.
Hit them with it. That's what I was hoping to get, one that you haven't told them yet.
Okay. At Engine 40 and Squad 5, that's a triple house. 15 guys, you got to come up with all manner of stuff, right? More fun. And we had a guy that used to come down the street, down 12th Street, 8 or 9 in the morning, 8 or 9 at night. He was drunk. His name was Jackson. And he'd be staggering and singing and hollering. And for some reason, I have no idea why, he hated Queen Elizabeth. So we'd see him coming down the street, and we'd go out and we'd start singing God Save the Queen. He'd start swearing and hollering and just coming unglued. And we had a captain of the squad, Leonard Smith, an old Southern boy. And he would say, don't let Jackson in the firehouse. Well, one day he came in the firehouse, and Van Sickle, the cook, said that Jackson wanted to use the bathroom, wanted to use the toilet downstairs. Well, he did, and it was rank. I mean, you could smell it all over the quarters with the doors open. Van Sickle went in the kitchen. He got ginger snaps, wet them down, threw them all over the glazed brick walls, all over the floor. It looked like Jackson had an explosion in there.
The brothers.
Jackson is swearing out on the platform. Captain Leonard Smith comes, get that man out of this firehouse. And then all of a sudden he could smell it. He come running down the stairs. Who let that man in here? And Van says, Cap, look at the bathroom. Leonard Smith looked at the bathroom. Van goes in there, he takes his finger and he wipes across the
did the little
Oh,
that's not real.
Leonard is saying, Van, don't do that. Van, don't. And Van looked at it, and Leonard lost his lunch.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
That was
like Bill Murray with the bar.
Yeah.
That's something, only a firehouse, these things can happen.
I agree.
Oh
right?
my God.
I agree.
I talked about my brother. I love him. I miss him. He was running a single truck, ladder 22. They had a driver. His name was Sidlowski. Sid should never have been on the job because he stuttered so bad. But he could get on the department phone and not stutter. So
That's weird.
It was. But he could talk to, but certain things he stuttered real bad. So my brother and him and the boss and whoever else, they get a run down on the expressway a box truck is on fire. They go down there with a bean gun with the truck and they knock the fire down. So my brother goes up to get the information from the driver to see who, the insurance and everything. So he goes up and he said, can I find out the name of the company you work for and different things, your name and stuff? And the guy said, my name. And my brother said, just a minute. Runs back to the truck and he said, Sid, would you go take that report? He said, I got something to do. The lieutenant wants me to do something. Sid goes up and he says, what's the name? And my brother said, when they double up their fist, I ran back out there and got between them. Dick, what would make you think of something like that? He said, it was there. You got to take it when
it was there, bro.
When they lob the ball up, you got to swing at it, right? I mean, you got to do it.
You got to. And
I love that. We haven't heard that from anybody. It was there, bro. You got to take it, right? Right, when it's there.
Now, did you guys ever have a Mo on your job?
A Mo?
I had a Maurice Mo. We used to call him Mo.
No. This was a guy that
lived
down LaBelle. He lived down LaBelle right by the service street. And he came running to engine 40 that his house was on fire. And 40s and squad and the truck are going out to 14th and Oakland where there's a fire. So they don't stop. They tell him, we can't stop. We got a box to go to. He got 4 kids that die in this fire. This is just a story. There is no Mo, there's no house fire, nothing. But you get a recruit that comes in, sitting around, and you start talking about Mo, right? And you get the police in on, and the police come by, and they say, "Hey, did you guys hear that Mo escaped from the prison?" "No, we haven't heard that." "Yeah, Mo's gone. He's out, and he's still looking for you guys. He still wants to kill you guys." Well, Jim Rushford was the Tillerman of Ladder 17, little guy. I'd have to tell you about him. He's a fantastic ping pong player, but he pulled his dark silk stocking down over his face, mashes your nose and makes you look all, stocking cap on, pea coat, dragging an axe. Mo kills. Mo kills. He'd come in the firehouse when the trial man would be out by himself. Mo kills.
That's cruel, bro.
Okay. So that was bad enough with the trial man. But then we had a milk driver. Do you remember when milk trucks would come up with milk in the back? And
I wasn't around for that, but I know about the milk
they
deliveries.
used to come up to the firehouse, Twin Pines milk truck, and he'd come in and he'd bring us half and half and stuff like that, give us a break. And he was kind of a cocky guy. And he came in one day and we're talking about Mo, and first thing he says is, "Well, if he ever did that to me, I'd knock him on his fanny. He wouldn't get away with that for me." Well, Rushford heard that. Down comes the stocking. Cat. Watch everything. He goes out and gets in the back of the truck. And he's rattling the bottles. That milk driver's sitting there with his ice pick, and he's stabbing it into his ice that he's got in his leather pouch. He's stabbing. He says, "Get out of my truck! Get out of my truck!" And I said, "Well, just go out there and push him out." That guy wouldn't leave the kitchen for anything. But he hollered, and Mo would just keep rattling the bottles. So Mo was great. He'd drag that axe, and he looked terrible. He looked like he had been through a fire, and all you'd ever
He had
hear.
a limp. He needed a limp.
Yeah, Mo killed.
With limp.
Yeah, now Rushford. Do you remember President Nixon?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. You remember the Chinese ping pong diplomacy?
No.
No? Well, he sent ping pong players from the States over to play against Chinese ping pong players. Rushford was one of them. Jimmy Rushford.
From
Must
your
have been a
place.
good ping
the
pong
guy-
play.
I would go down the basement at 40s. He'd say, "Decker, come on down." He said, "I hear you're getting a little better." So I go downstairs. He'd have his coat, boots, helmet, mask, and play me with a
pot or eraser. Frying pan?
Not a frying.
Regular paddle.
No.
Oh, like an ashtray or something.
What you pick up trash with, sweep it into.
Oh, like a
whisk
little, like a little shovel.
Yeah.
You talk about a dustpan.
Dustpan.
A dustpan?
Man, I'd get 2 points on him maybe. When he came back from China, he came back and got one of those sponge pads. Oh man, you couldn't get a point on him. He was fantastic.
Did he win in China?
Hmm?
Did he win over there in China?
Yeah. I don't know that the diplomacy worked. We're having trouble.
Oh, it kicked their ass. Then they weren't too happy
Crap
about
out
it.
of those fucking
Sent over
Chinese,
Forrest Gump.
But he was that good of a ping pong player, and he ran there at 40s, and he was fantastic. But you go down and play him with a sponge paddle, and forget it. And he would have we get a phone call, or Central Dispatch would call us. Is Rushford on? Yeah, he's on. Well, somebody called and they want to come down and play ping pong with him. Guy would come in with his little paddle in a little bag, special bag, and everything. Come in and he would leave all sweaty and downtrodden. Rushford,
So he got his ass kicked.
oh yeah, Rushford to take him apart.
Gonzo, do we have pictures? Did we get to the pinning ones yet? There's a couple of.
I have the pinning ones when you're ready for them.
Yeah, let's bring those up.
Okay. Because I have a question.
Okay, I'm pinning my grandson Andrew in Arkansas, and he went to engineer school. I never wanted to be an engineer. Never wanted to drive, but he said, "Dad, or Grandpa, that's the only way I can get a promotion right now. I don't want to take the captain's test yet." So he said, "It's more money," and he said, "If we're second engine in, sometimes the captain will let me go in and take the line if I want." So he loves being an engineer. He's a good old school fireman. He loves to cook, and the guys all like him. I've been down there and met his crew, and they like him. And there he is. He's a big boy. You can see that.
Yeah, he's a little beefy.
Yeah, and he's got a little girl. I don't know if her picture will be in here or not. And he used to be that's his brand new baby. This one was
Brand new baby. Okay, well, that's still good to bring
My
up.
God, look at that kid.
Yeah, this one's she's probably 10 or 12 now. When she was 2 or 3, he would throw her up in the air and somebody saw him doing it. He used to be a catcher in gymnastics.
Yeah.
Somebody took movies of him doing it on the beach one time, and it went viral, and she became the little flyer. And he went to Good Morning America and another show on TV, and he would throw her up. You can't believe how high she would go.
Really?
And he'd catch her and like this, and she'd lock her legs and lift the one leg straight up. And she's the head of her gymnastic team now. She's just a tiny little thing. But his wife was a gymnast, and now you can see him. He was the bottom man. He was.
So why did he go over to Arkansas then? What brought him to Arkansas?
That's where my son lives, my oldest son.
Oh, your oldest son lives in Arkansas.
Yeah, he's been there for 40 some years.
But he wasn't a fireman, right?
No, he wasn't a fireman, my oldest son. No, he's a commercial artist. And I don't know, he does logos for a lot of fire departments. And so does fantastic logos. He's a commercial artist.
I got it already, Coop. I'll take care of it.
You do,
he does
you know how to do it.
He does it for Charlotte. And I think Jordan's logo is from my son, Mark. But let's see.
Now, where does Jordan work?
Jordan works in Charlotte. Right
That's
there,
not-
Jordan with my son, Steve.
Which one was this one? Who's your favorite?
My favorite is my son.
That
one right there.
That's who? Which son is that?
That's my youngest. He's the one that was conceived at the bowling tournament. And
Jordan was the one who sent me the email.
He was what? He was the captain?
My son was the captain, just retired 2 years.
Jordan. Okay.
Yep.
He was the one that was bopping around in the back in the pre-show, right?
No, that's not his son. That's his grandson.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, Jordan's my grandson.
I'm confused. All right.
He lives in
But
Charlotte.
he also has a granddaughter.
Who?
Oh, yes.
Oh, Jordan's sister?
Jordan's sister.
Have you got a
Coop.
picture of her, Gonzo?
I might have acquired a picture of this. Coops doesn't know about this.
Let me think about this for a second. I think
Her
I
name
have
is
this
Brooklyn
one.
Decker.
Isn't she a beautiful girl?
Is
married
this the one that we're talking about?
Yes, that is the one.
That's your granddaughter?
I
She's as
saved that
nice,
one for you, Coops.
she's as nice as she is beautiful.
You ain't kidding. I mean, I'm sure
And she's
must be-
married.
He ain't
to,
lying. He ain't lying.
Who she's married to a tennis star,
Andy
Roddick.
And she called Andy before the swimsuit issue came out. And she says, do you mind if she says, they're going to put it up on a 5-story building in New York. And he says, you go for it,
Hubba hubba.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's,
Whoa. So
Forget
this is
about it.
whose
Forget
wife
about
is
it.
this now? Your son's wife?
my son, that's my granddaughter. That's Jordan's sister.
Look, you got Coops all
I am-
disheveled. He has no idea what he's
I am-
doing right
In the
now.
words
He
of the
can't even
Jewish thing, he's all
concentrate.
disheveled right now.
Well,
He's
All
like
right.
disheveled.
now that I saw the picture, I got all
The
of
guy's
I'm like, wow.
86 years old.
She's
Who,
my,
me?
she's my
You can't
second,
just rapid fire at him. You got to slow down.
yes, she's my second oldest son's daughter.
Your second oldest son's daughter. And he's the artist?
No, that's my oldest son.
Who's on first? All
Listen,
right.
you can't
My
talk
oldest-
fresh
my
anyway
oldest son,
because
Mark, was
I'll
born-
help Frank kick your ass if you talk about his granddaughter. In any
I'm not.
kind
I'm
of-
just trying to get a line on
respectful
who's
way.
who. It's very confusing. There's a lot of firemen. There's artists. There's cover models. There's holy crap. They're all.
My oldest-
Listen, they
my
got
oldest
good
son-
oaks. They
my
got two
oldest
good
son-
oaks. What do you expect?
Yeah, my oldest son was born in 60. Steve, Brooklyn's dad, was born in 62.
Right.
Amy, my daughter, was born in 68. Josh was born in 70.
Wow.
And
I got this photo too for you to.
that's Josh, me and my wife,
Uh-huh.
So we can get who's who. Okay.
Kristen, Josh's beautiful wife, and his 2 twin daughters.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So you can try to put 2 and 2 together, Coops. I'll try to get these.
I'm trying.
That's
I'm
great.
really trying.
Grace and Emily. And they're graduates of UNC now. And
Wow,
fantastic young girls.
Frank, you done good.
you really have done well.
I've been blessed. I've been blessed with beautiful children, and not just looks. I mean, beautiful in the heart. Beautiful people that you'd like to have for a neighbor. Andy Roddick is, he's a funny man. He's intense, but he's a funny man. And a lot of fun to be around. He's a fantastic ping pong player. He's a fantastic tennis player, and retired at 29. And he's a good businessman, and he takes care of my granddaughter and their 2 children. And I couldn't be blessed with any more with any of my children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. But I think my wife said one time, "How do you feel about your Firehouse crew?" And I said, "There's a love there that's different than my love for my family, but it's deep. It is a deep love that you just can't explain." I would
Well,
tell
listen, when
you,
you go, it's like the military, right? If you go into battle with people and you trust, and
That's it.
and you
Yeah, you put
know,
your hands in their life. They
Yeah,
put
it's-
your,
it's-
and vice versa.
it's not, if you go to a we've said this on the show a lot. When you go to a reunion, right? You could walk in there. You might not have seen those guys for 20 years, and it's as if no time has gone by, right? You don't miss a beat. You're
Right.
telling stories. You're laughing. There are very few jobs or relationships that you have, even like high school or college, maybe college, or military, but there's very few that you could just slip right in, and after so much time goes by because people change, right? But for firemen, I think it's easy peasy when it comes to that,
yeah. And the ones that aren't going to fit in, they don't fit in. They don't want to. And I'm not saying anything bad about them. They're just not cut in that mold. And sometimes I wonder, I used to see a few of them kicking the line, wondering, why in the world did I take this job? Or putting dirt on their faces so they look like they've done something. And you got them. But there's a reason you got them, I guess. And that's, I don't know what it is. There's a spot for them. You can't dislike them. They're part of the crew. I can remember we had a fellow that got transferred into 40s, and he came up to me. I was cooking, and he said, "I'm allergic to pork." So, after he said that, some of the guys heard him, and one of the guys came over and said, "Have pork chops or put pork in. Make soup out of pork back. Let's see him swell up." You know.
Yeah.
It's the other white meat.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, that's what they did with Salvo. Remember when Bobby Salvesen was allergic to shrimp, and he couldn't peel it or anything, so he would. And I said, let's throw up some shrimp on the phone and call the Firehouse and tell them to him and see if you're gonna kill a guy.
He would blow up if he was in the room
He's
with
in the
the
room
shrimp.
with the shrimp.
He didn't even have to go near it. He was
You
like
guys
one of
want
those
to rub
strange
the
guys.
phone with it.
But you can have fun with that, can't you?
Yes, you.
Oh,
you gotta
It's
take
there. It's there.
It's
You gotta
there.
yeah,
You gotta take. I'm putting that on a shirt. It's there. You gotta
There.
take it.
Oh
You
man.
gotta take it.
And we used to have, his name was Vic Thomas. He was too short to get on the job. He was a catcher for a minor league baseball team. And somebody downtown at that time, this would be back in the 30s, maybe the 20s, liked him, got him on the job, and he was there through the war years. And when I came on the job, he was the captain of ladder 17. He would sit on the seat of the truck with his legs crossed like he was a catcher. He was that little. And I was cooking, and I think I made cherry pies. I don't think I bought them. I think I made cherry pies. And he came in the kitchen and he cut off his piece like everybody, and he took it and he threw it in the trash. And I said, "Captain, are you allergic to cherry pies or something?" He says, "No, but I pay the same as everybody else." And I said, "You got a point. You got a point there. You can do with it what you want." And that's what he did. He threw it in the trash.
All right.
But when Vic would go down for extensions, and they used to give extensions, especially if the guy knew the mayor or something, and he would go down and the guys would tell him, "Vic, put some shoe polish. You're getting gray." He'd put black shoe polish in his hair to make it look like he wasn't so old. And he'd go down for an extension. We had a lieutenant that used to go to a funeral parlor and embalm for him when he was on duty. They'd call him up. Maybe they didn't have an embalmer, and they'd call Lou up, and he'd go down and do the embalming. And he'd come back with false teeth for he'd try them on. Vic would try those false teeth on, and I wonder, oh my God.
That's nasty.
But Vic Thomas, he was a funny little guy, but he was put on the job just because he knew somebody. And but he was the captain there at ladder 17 for a while. They finally let him go. I'm trying to think of some of them. Oh, we used to have guys that used to come in the firehouse. We call them fire buffs. Do you guys get them?
Yeah, we have buffs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Never heard of them.
Yeah. And this guy was named Reuben. And he sold papers on Grand River and Joy Road. And he would wear glasses, and sometimes it would just be the glass part he'd put up to his eye. He'd come in. And he was Jewish. And the story was he was went to college, was getting a degree, and something snapped in him. And he became almost autistic. But he sold papers, and he would come in with those newspapers under his arm, and he would call Willoughby, who was one of my favorite firemen, he'd call Willoughby Willow Tree. And he would call me Pecker instead of Decker. And he had this strange voice, and we had a Jewish chief at the time, Joe Adler. He became chief of department, but he was Jewish. And Willoughby would say, "You little Jew," like that to Rube. And Rube would go outside and he'd holler up to the chief, "Chief Adler, Willoughby said I was a Jew." No. And he says, "You're one too."
Get Willoughby out of the firehouse.
Oh yeah, Willoughby was a driver. The chief he'd put up with Willoughby. But anyway, one day somebody hollered out at Rube, "Quit making noise out there, Rube. We're trying to sleep. Did you guys sleep from 1 to 4? Could you go to bed, take a nap?"
Allegedly.
Okay, but you could take a nap during the day.
Oh, you know what they say? A well-rested fireman.
On Detroit from 1 to 4.
Remember what we said? Safety naps. We used to call those safety naps.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, on Detroit, we worked a 24-hour shift, but you could take a nap from 1 to 4. So everybody go upstairs up in the dormitory and chill out in case we were up all night. Well, Rube was making noise, and somebody hollered out the upstairs window, "Rube, shut up." And I think it was Stefke downstairs said, "Rube, tell him to go to hell. You're a taxpayer." He hollered back up, "Go to hell. Something about a taxpayer."
There was one. What was the?
There was a question.
One of the guys had a question for.
Yeah, before we go to the old school tip, there's a question.
Oh, we got the old school tips coming
Not
up?
yet. Wait, not yet.
We got a couple seconds. We have a question from the chat for you. I'm just going to pull it up on the screen here. And there it is.
What was your biggest fire?
The biggest fire was probably the riots. Good grief. Not only 12th Street was burning, but after they torched and we got where we couldn't put them all out, it jumped the alley, and all these houses were burning down these streets. We get 2, 3, 4. It jumped from house to house. There, houses in Detroit were, good grief, you could jump from roof to roof. I was on a roof one day and we got burned through. We couldn't get back to the ladder. I jumped to the house next door and I told the lieutenant, I said, "You're going to have to explain why they got a hole in their roof," because I hit it with the peen of my axe, but we couldn't get off the roof. There was no way to get off, and they couldn't get ladders up in between the houses. So we just jumped to the house next door and come down that way. But that would be the biggest fire, was the 5 days of the riots. I think other than that, we had a grocery store. Do you guys know what a Chemox mask is?
No.
Okay. You know, we didn't have Scots. We had smoke masks, canisters. Okay. And we get a grocery store fire, and we pull up the squad. Me and Libby went around back with lines. They said the basement. We went around back with lines. They said, "You can't go down there with your MSA smoke mask." They put a Chemox on us. I'd never had a Chemox on before. It's like a big swim, almost like a scuba diving thing. It's rubber, and it's got a canister in it. And once you puncture this, the moisture makes the oxygen. It's good for about an hour. You got a vent where you can push it and let the air out, because it'll blow you up. It'll blow your face piece up. And they tie a rope on your back, and down in the basement, me and Red went. That was kind of scary. I've never been scared in a fire, but when they put the rope on my back and tied me, that kind of makes you wonder, are we going to come out of here? Are they going to have to pull us out? But me and Red went down there. Smith and Ed Smith and Al Schultz, they came in through the front of the store, and fire being in the basement burned up through the floor and burnt their line. They're stuck with no water. They can't get out because the fire's up through the floor now. They headed to the back, and the guys heard them beating on the back where the meat cutter was. They heard them beating on that door. By the time they got the door open and got them, they had wet themselves. They were out, and they had MSAs on. You fall down with those, and you're down. You're not getting any air. We thought we'd lost them, and me and Red are down there in the basement. We heard about it, and I think that's a fire that comes back to my mind. That, good grief, Smith and Schultz they may not make it,
Right.
And they made it. They got out in the squad rig and got them some oxygen. But I didn't like the fact that I had to have a rope tied on me. But I would have gone anywhere with Red, and we were down there. We put a lot of fire out down that basement. We had a fire downtown one time. It was the 3rd or 4th, and we pull up, and I'm in the squad, got the red helmet on, and I used to chew at fires. Chew Red Man.
Yeah.
Not enough, but Red Man. And I had a big plug, and you didn't wear a mask and an extra alarm. They're all ventilated, right? It's just a big store. And we went in, me and Red, and there was a young black. Yeah, that's a little more modern than ours. We just had one hose down to the charcoal mask. So I'm going in, and I don't have a mask, and I'm going into this place, and it's smoky, but it's, we go in, and me and Red are working. I come out, and there's a young kid, black kid, sitting on the corner, on the curb. And he says, "How do you take that smoke in there, man?" I says, "It's ventilated. It's not bad." what do you got in your mouth? I said, chew tobacco. You want some? So I gave a chew of Red Man. Back in we go. I come back a little while later. He's sitting on the curb, his head between his knees.
Throwing up, yeah.
I forgot to tell him to spit.
Oh, swing and a miss. He struck him out.
From then on, if I would ever see him at a fire, he'd tell his buddies, Decker is the man. Decker is the man.
Decker's the man.
Decker is the man.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think it's that time now, brother.
Oh, I
You have
think
it all ready
is.
for words of
do.
wisdom from Mr. Decker.
We got to do it.
Yep.
You
Hold
ready
on.
to go, Mr. Decker?
I'm ready. Are you all ready?
Here we go.
It's time
for
for
The
the
old
old school
tip
tip of the day.
day.
All right,
Okay,
Francis, you're up.
I think my main thing I would tell a young fireman, especially now with all the equipment you've got and the mask and everything else, when you go into a fire, you get off the rig, you take a tool. If you got the line, you got the line. Don't give it up. Don't ever give that line up unless it's one of your crew. Don't ever give it up to anybody else that comes up their squad. No matter, I don't care who it is. You don't give the line up. The other thing is, if you got an axe and you're chapping a hole in the roof and your arms are tired and your back is done, and somebody comes up and says, give me the axe, don't do it. You go back and finish cutting. Do everything you can. Don't give it up, because as soon as you do, the chief's going to come up or somebody's going to look at you, and that kid's got your tool and you're doing nothing. Pike pole the same way. You're pulling ceiling and you figure, man, I can't pull another ceiling down. I'm done. Don't give it up. And then if you're on the line, which I always wanted to be, I never wanted to be in the truck. I wanted to be on the line. Don't ever give that line up. But if it's an apartment or it's a house and it's in a room and you're down in a hallway and it's getting hot, it's going to get hotter and hotter if you don't get to that room. Once you get to that room and you get a window open and you fog it, it's going to cool off. But if you stand there in that hallway and you figure I can't go any further, all you're going to do is your ears are going to start to melt, your neck's going to get burnt, and that's going to be it. You don't ever back up. Just keep going in and make the corner. I used to tell, if I had a trial man that worked there at 39 with me, I'd say, make the corner. Get around that corner and put the fire out. Don't stand out in the hallway and hope it's going to get cooler. It ain't going to get cooler. So that would be my tip of the day. And the other thing would be, every firehouse, if you're cleaning the house that day, do your best to help everybody out. I don't care if you're senior man. I don't care if you're a boss. Everybody's got to live there and clean that place up and live in a clean house. You do your part. If you're cooking, do the dishes with the guys. If you're playing cards for dishes, play cards for dishes. But don't just figure that you're above anybody else. And bosses, I never held up food to wait for the boss to get in line. They're in charge, but they don't work any harder than me, and they're firemen and they eat just like everybody else. I call chow. It's whoever's there. We don't wait for anybody. And that would be my tip, and hopefully live with it. One day you'll be a boss. Detroit had a seniority system. I was never a boss. I didn't like being in charge, but I think if I was in charge, I think I would have been a good boss. I really do. I think the guys would have gone with me. I think I would have gone with anybody that had the line. I would have gone in. That's the way you're supposed to be. You're a fireman. That's what it's all about, putting that fire out. So I love being on here. Thank you for listening to my stories. I hope that I didn't bore you at all.
Not at all.
Make the corner,
Make
Coobs.
the corner.
That's
That's
it.
coming up soon. Make the corner. Frank says, make the
Isn't
corner.
that true? You guys know, isn't that
Oh,
true?
yeah.
No, you got to hit. If you're not hitting the seat of the fire, you're
Yeah,
just
if you're standing
whistling
in the
Dixie. So
doorway,
you got to
it's a-
make the corner to get to the seat of the
Gotta
fire.
make
It
the
makes
corner.
sense.
Now, dude, those were old school. That
That
is
was
old
old school.
school
Well, listen.
tip of the day.
Oh,
Never give up your tool is obviously you have to have some pride in that. Like he said,
Yep.
you got to finish it. If you got to take a breather, but you got to finish your work, like he
They,
said.
they want you back for more stories, Frank. So we're gonna have to get you back on. See that? Look,
I know there's a lot of them that I didn't bring out, but some
Gotta
of
save
them,
'em.
some of them I wonder if they would want to hear them. They're
We're
usually
gonna get you back. We'll get you back.
we'll get you back on for a part 2 because guys love fire stories.
I'll tell you what, I respect you guys from New York more than I could ever tell you. You guys to me are heroes. I was telling my son today, I said they lost 343, was it,
Yep.
in one day? He says, Dad, that would have been A shift, would have been B shift, would have been C shift.
Right.
How do you go back to work? How do you? I don't know how you guys did it. I don't know how you do it.
Same
I
way
know
you did it.
Same way you do it. The
there was-
Day
brothers
at
are
a
there
time,
for
and
the brothers.
with your guys that you had left, that's how it was.
Yep.
Hey, Frank, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever give up the can when they first gave it to you?
Oh, no.
So
We know somebody that did. We know somebody that might have.
just a quick story, Frank. When one of my first jobs, a very senior lieutenant, worked in Bushwick during the 70s. Really, fire officer, and he was testing me out, and he said we get up to the floor. I think it was the second or third floor, whatever it was, and the fire was out into the hall. And he says to me, "Give me a can. Reach in there with your hook and close the door while we wait for the line, right? Because the fire was out the door into the hallway." So I give him the can, and I reach down and I close the door. And as soon as I close the door, I hear the can dingling down the hallway. Ding, 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 ding. He turns to me and says, "Don't ever effing give up your tool ever, kid."
There you go.
So I had to go run down, get the tool, get my can, come back, and then to your exact words, I never gave up my tool ever again, not one time.
I got him back for you, Ruffy. I ran over his garbage cans. So.
Can I give you a life-saving story?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Okay, we went into an apartment. I think it was a second alarm. Me and Ted Pataki, I was on the squad, and we go into this room. It is full of smoke, and we're down. We got MSA on again, and we got just the charcoal canisters. We're crawling through this room looking for somebody, and all of a sudden I hear this voice. "I'm over here, you dumb SOB." It's a woman's voice, and you can tell she's been drinking. So we find her. She's on the couch. She's in a nightgown. So I said, "Lady, we got to get out of here." She swore at me again, told me to leave her alone. So I grab her under the arms. Pataki's got her feet. We're heading out. Well, we're down low, right? We get to the door. We get her out of the apartment. We get out in the hall, and they got a big grand stairway, and it's a marble stairway with carpeting on it. Used to be an old, nice hotel. I couldn't keep holding her. I let go of her shoulders. Her head hit every step on the.
Oh my God!
I hollered at Pataki, "Let squad 4 get her."
Leave it here. It sounded like Louis Can going down the hallway. Her head banging on the stairs.
That used to happen quite a bit, unfortunately. I used to see that quite a bit.
I'm thinking she's going to say, "Who was it that tried to kill me up there?"
Got a big lump on my head.
Yeah. Well, that's my life-saving story.
Thank you, Frank, for coming on.
Start thinking of some stories for the next show. We'll have you back on.
Yeah.
I'd love to be on with you guys. I really appreciate
We'll
it.
set something up with your grandson.
Ruffy, you have any shout-outs, bud?
The Rangers are losing 2-0. That's my only shout out.
I thought, okay.
Rangers
I have an
are-
unfortunate, a very sad shout-out. Captain Jimmy Graham, who's usually in here, his nephew's little baby, Cooper, had that very rare form of, I think it was brain cancer, and got all this, and it was a miracle. It was working out. Well, they just got news that the cancer is back, and it's bad. So he's asking if the Leatherhead Nation, because he believes and I believe in prayers, if we could say a prayer for little Cooper and his mom and dad, Mike and Rachel Graham. So let's say some prayers for Cooper, please, tonight, and keep him in your thoughts. And that's all I got, Ruff. What do we have
All
on
right, Gons,
Thursday night? Thursday night we have
Chief Jay Jonas.
Chief Jonas doing the Worcester, and then we're going to book Mr. Decker for a part 2. All right, Guns, take us out, buddy. What do you got?
All right, we're going to do our outro, ladies and gentlemen. Stand by.
Well, thank you first and foremost for tuning in to another episode of the Gettin' Salty Experience. Think we're out of good content? Ha! Far from it. If you want to find us on the audio side, you can do so on all the players. We're available on, yes, I said that correctly, all the players. Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, that's where we are. And if you're here tonight, congratulations. You found us on the Gettin' Salty Experience, which if you're not already subscribed, please do so. It's free, costs you nothing. You can also like and share, which also costs you nothing and helps us grow the audience of the show. You can also find us on social media if you so please. Of course, we're on Instagram, where Lou posts great FDNY content from yesteryear. We're also on TikTok. Tangumus Prime is on top of that. And we're also on LinkedIn, too, where yours truly, Mike McBob Cologne, is on top of things on that front. Head on over to GettinSaltyApparel.com, by the way, for all kinds of great merchandise, apparel, and accessories. There is a super chat, too. We thank each and every one of you for your support. You can open up your wallet and donate an amount of your choosing during the program. After all, you guys, yes, you guys are our number one sponsors. Super thanks as well. If you missed the show live, you can show support through that means. If you still wish to open up your wallet, the super thanks is basically a thank you after the fact for another great episode of ours. The Facebook fan page is in existence too, now over 60,000 strong and continuing to grow. It's not created by us at the Gettin' Salty Experience, but it is nevertheless a great way to connect with firefighters from all over and fans of the show alike. If you want to advertise with the Gettin' Salty Experience, send your information on over to gettinsaltyads@gmail.com. And if you have any questions or have a guest suggestion, please send them to gettinsaltyexperience@gmail.com with the necessary contact information. And finally, if you have content for anything else, please send them to koobspodcast@gmail.com. Of course, that's Kevin Kubler's secondary email. And that's where you could send things like rig photos, firehouse kitchen tables, fire videos, helmet cam videos, tattoos, mustache photos, and yes, photos for the unofficial Hot Old Ladies contest that we may or may not be holding, allegedly. Thanks once again for tuning in to the Gettin' Salty Experience.
Great job, McBob, who will be making his return quite soon, possibly. Him and Gonzo will hit it up. All right, Mr. Decker, thoroughly enjoyed you coming on. I look forward to having you back again. Thank you for sharing that time with us.
Could we just take a minute?
Yeah,
Sure.
You want to pray for young Cooper?
yeah, sure.
Want to close our eyes and our dear Heavenly Father, we come before you with a young boy it's got a terrible diagnosis, and we ask for a miracle to be for his family, for him. Your will be done, but we ask for a miracle. We pray for young Cooper, and we just pray that you will act in his behalf and that you will bring comfort to that family. We thank you in Lord's name and Christ for his sake. Amen.
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 Thank
Thank
you.
you, Frank. Thank you so much.
Oh,
I
thank you,
appreciate
Frank.
that.
That was nice. Thank you.
All right, Roof, that's it. I'll see you guys on Thursday. Gons, Mr. Decker, thank you so much once again. We'll see you in the backstage. Until Thursday, guys, stay low and go.
I think I enjoyed it more than you guys. I really did.
I don't know about that. I enjoyed listening to you
Yeah.
guys. We'll see you at the big one, everybody.
All right, guys, stay safe.